This is VOCM Open Line.
Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626.
The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now.
Well, good morning, one and all. I trust you're having a great day. Nice and warm right now, but that temperature is going to take a nosedive. So if you're heading off to work, probably be wise to keep that in mind rather than going with the thin jacket. Stick with your old winter one. Winter's not done with us yet. Well, we've been talking a lot on the show this week about access to healthcare. In fact, it's a topic that has dominated discussion in this province for the last decade or more? And we've really seen a change, a shift, a greater emphasis on access to health care, and because so many people have been left without a family physician, a person on whom we all have grown to rely. And when you don't have a family physician, you certainly feel the loss. Well, a busy walk-in clinic in the metro region has closed, leaving many patients wondering where to go next. Notice was posted on Dr. Eric Ellie's walk-in clinic at the Blackmarsh Road, Dominion, and it indicates that the clinic is indefinitely closed and that the doctor apologizes for the abrupt notification. That happened as of last Friday, by the way. So Dr. Ellie will not be able to access requisitioned lab work or diagnostic tests, and he's urging patients to contact NL Health Services or attend a walk-in clinic to get the results. Patients are being urged to register with Patient Connect, and in the case of an emergency, proceed to the nearest emergency room or urgent care clinic. Now, this particular situation is a little different from the ones that some of us are aware of. Dr. Ellie has had a long history running up against the College of Physicians and Nurses. In 2025, he pleaded guilty to charges of professional misconduct and incompetence. He's currently listed as being restricted from patient care. But the loss is still profound. And there were a lot of people that used to access that Blackmarsh Road clinic. I think anybody who is in the general vicinity and has had to require those services knows, you walked in and the place was on wheels. It was blocked. So it's a big inconvenience, I suppose, for a lot of people in the metro region. Sorry about that. Frog in my throat. And he's not the only one. We've got the situation that's unfolding now in Grand Falls, Windsor, where there's a long-established family physician who is hoping to retire, and a replacement has not yet been accepted there. There's a word I'm looking for. That's not quite it, but if you know what I mean, he's selected somebody, but they're not ready to go, according to the health minister. So there is a situation unfolding there. And I heard Jerry Lynn Mackey this morning discussing a similar type of situation in the Corner Brook region, where a family physician is leaving the area. So a very serious situation, and a lot of people left wondering what to do next. If you have a family physician who's retiring or leaving the profession or leaving the province for whatever reason, where do you go? What do you do? And the family physician is that first contact, that first point of care that, is this something I need to be concerned about? Let's do some testing. Let's find out what's in your blood work. And as a result, a lot of people having to rely on the urgent care clinics and or the emergency rooms to take care of regular things. Now we've changed our way of looking at things. Pharmacists can take care of a few minor ailments. We do have the urgent care clinic now, and those kinds of things. And now we have family care teams that they are talking about, but they're a little bit of a different kind of approach than a lot of people are used to. And now the prospect of nurse practitioners who are also coming into the fore, and whether or not they'll be able to practice to their full scope of practice and bill MCP for those services remains to be seen, but it's something that the current government is looking at very seriously. Well, the Auditor General is set to release a new performance audit today. This time it's related to Newfoundland Labrador Housing's inventory. Denise Hanrahan's report on supply management and the social rental housing inventory will be released this afternoon at 3. The question is, what will she find? Back in 2023, if you recall, then Minister Paul Pike indicated there were 750 new government housing units in the province, but he later admitted, of course, that he misspoke, and at that time only 11 new government housing units were available. In recent years, there's been a growing number of NL housing units that were just sitting there moldering and boarded up. You didn't have to go very far, especially here in the St. John's region, to see that kind of evidence. And there are others besides that don't require major repairs, yet are still sitting vacant, and the wait lists remain. There was a lot of talk for a lot of time that, family compositions have changed dramatically over the years, especially since some of these units were built. And sometimes these units don't necessarily fill the needs of the people who require them. So they need a lot of single-person type units and that kind of thing as well. In late 2023, the number of vacant NL housing units in the province in need of repair had increased to 151. And another 298 had been repaired. That was then, and this is now. Last year, we reported that more than 750 provincially owned housing units were vacated over a 2-year period between April of 2023 and April of 2025, and the province was planning to construct 32 new units on Janeway Place, and another 40-unit apartment building was also expected to start being built in that same area. There's also some projects underway on the West Coast where the need is great. The need for housing remains a clear and pressing concern. We took a call on Monday, as a matter of fact, from a woman who was distressed that her adult daughter couldn't find a suitable and affordable place to live. So it's still a very pressing concern. We'll be watching and waiting to hear what the AG has to say about the province's social housing inventory and how it's being managed. And the big question, of course, is, have you had trouble finding housing yourself? Tell us your story. We took a call, of course, on Open Line yesterday from Dr. Shannon Sullivan. He's a contractual professor who teaches first-year math at Memorial University. And I thought that what he was telling us was alarming. He was talking about some changes at Memorial University, but he also, on my prompting, discussed the readiness of math students heading into the university setting. And he says just a few years ago, he'd seen maybe 4 or 5 out of every 100 students making some pretty fundamental mistakes. Now, he estimates that number has climbed to about 30 or 40 of every 100 students. In other words, 30 to 40% of the students that he sees. COVID, of course, is a big part of that. I have to be honest, I fret for the so-called COVID kids whose educational timeline was severely affected by the pandemic. But Sullivan pointed to a number of other factors as well. That includes things like the curriculum and the time students are spending looking at their screens, for instance. I have a 15-year-old son. It's really hard to knock his eyeballs off that little thing in his hand. It is like something I've never seen before in my life. It is verging on an addiction, I would say my own estimates are. There have long been concerns about how our students are being prepared to compete in the real world, as well as their levels of literacy and numeracy entering post-secondary. And you'll recall it was a focus a few years ago by the former Premier Dwight Ball, who put together a Premier's Task Force, which recommended that an overhaul of the province's math and reading curricula was needed. Well, how have we we been doing with that? And if you have any thoughts on that, you're welcome to give us a call. Maybe the teachers union wants to weigh in. I noticed that in the House of Assembly yesterday, the Newfoundland and Labrador has not signed on to the National Energy Corridor. But what does that mean exactly? The issue was raised in the House yesterday by Opposition Leader John Hogan, and Energy Minister Lloyd Parrott indicated that neither Newfoundland and Labrador nor Quebec had signed on because they were awaiting the results of the review panel's assessment of the Upper Churchill MOU. Well, does that put us at a disadvantage, as our question of the day is asking? If you have any thoughts on that, you are welcome to give us a call. So much more on the go. We're going to take a very short break, and when we come back, we're going to speak with the seniors advocate here in Newfoundland and Labrador, Susan Walsh, when we come back right after this. And we're back. We're going now to the outgoing seniors advocate, Susan Walsh. Hello, Susan.
Good morning, Linda. Thanks for having me.
Yes, no trouble. I don't need to tell you, Susan, that we've had quite a bit of discussion, especially in recent days, about topics like long-term care, like home care, and how we care for our seniors in this province. And we've heard quite a few really sad stories, actually, from families who are frustrated with what they see as inadequacies in the system. And of course, you've looked into long-term care and personal care homes in the province and made recommendations. Where do we stand now?
So, Linda, you're right. You don't need to tell me, because we have heard from a number of seniors and their families who have also been listening to your program. And then I tuned in a bit to listen to some of it. And if I could take a moment to set the record straight on a few things, I think it might be helpful. So I just want to start with the demographics for a second. So there is no excuse. We cannot say, oh, we just need a small short-term fix. This is not a short-term fix, okay? The biggest group of of people in this province, the biggest age band, runs between 55 and 69. So the truth of the matter is we haven't hit stride yet on the number of older seniors in this province at all. We have a probably 10-year window to get ready for it, maybe a little less than 10 years. Now is the time to get ready. And it's going to be a 30-year. This is not a short-term issue. And I can go on about we all knew this in advance, we should be ready. It's all irrelevant. We're where we are today, let's fix it. So I do want to set the record straight. We got to get past thinking, if we just put in a couple of short-term measures, we'll get through this. No, that's not true. The second thing is, while it's absolutely true we need the number of beds in long-term care we have in this province compared to almost every other province is lower, okay? So we have 25 long-term care beds for every 1,000 seniors in this province. There's only 3 provinces behind us in that, and 2 of them are in the 24 range. So we are behind, and all the Atlantic provinces have more long-term care beds per 1,000 seniors than we do. So we absolutely need more long-term care beds. That's true. However, we don't need them the way they are now. They can't be institutionalized. They need to be a more community-based model, and we need to have a much better approach to care in those facilities. We need a model of care, not just Mr. X needs his meds today, Mrs. Y needs this. It's got to be a model of care where we are patient-focused, where we are caring for a person who's living in their home, because that's what a long-term care facility is. But before we think about any of that, Linda, we need more resources and better resources at the community level. Nobody wants to go to long-term care. Nobody wants to go to personal care for the most part. Most people want to stay in their homes or age in the right place, whatever that might be. And the truth of the matter is, if we don't put more resources at the community level now and fix what we've got out there and support it better, then we have lost the fight on this. And so part of that is definitely the home support system. We need more education. We need better pay. I agree with the people who are doing, private. They're not employed by agencies. They're not getting paid enough. Why their pay is less than agency-based, I'm not really sure that it stands because they don't have certain, so ask them, make them get whatever that criteria is and give them a decent wage. The truth is, we have done a really good job with the early childhood educators. I'm not saying it's not 100% fixed, but they have done a good job of trying to get that profession, trained, educated, supported, giving them resources so that people go into it saying, this is a career I see myself having, a lifetime in, and I can do some really good work. That's what we need to do with our home support workers. They're critical in all of this. Now, none of this is a short-term fix, and I'm going to tell you honestly, all those sad stories you have heard, over the last week or so, we hear daily here. They are horrendous. I could spend an hour of your time, but you don't have to give me, telling you the stories. It's just ridiculous. And I wish to God I could say that this is going to get fixed tomorrow. It's not. I mean, we have, our office has pushed government to review these the long-term care and personal care home systems. They did it finally. They have a report that was completed by external consultants. They have a work plan, which I have to say, I've met with the new minister for seniors. I've met with his executive team on a couple of occasions. They are working their plan. We released our own report here with saying, okay, look, here's how to do it. Here's how to implement it. Here's how to move forward, because the previously, when they received the report, the previous government, it was months and months and months, nothing happened. So we were like, okay, well, we'll tell them how to do it. And we did. And I consulted with many, many people who worked in the long-term care and personal care home systems to put that, our report together, which was From Review to Action, a Continuum of Care. And Linda, the biggest thing, and I have said this to Minister Party, the biggest thing that needs to happen next is we need the Continuum of Care legislation. We are one of two provinces in the country that don't have long-term care legislation, okay? So we've never enshrined the rights of seniors in this province to receive any level of quality service. We are past talking about long-term care legislation. We need to move to the model that Alberta has to some degree, which is a continuum of care legislation. So that continuum would be right from home support through restorative care, personal care, long-term care, right on through to palliative care. And what it would do is it would set the law, the legislative standards. So all programs within the continuum would be set out in the legislation. And then it would provide authority and responsibility for oversight, and non-compliance would actually have consequences. If you don't comply with the level of care that you have to give residents and patients, then you're going to receive consequences. And at the end of all this, then we would have the legislation would outline roles and responsibilities for all the entities involved. So government, Newfoundland and Labrador Health Services, the owners and operators of these private entities that are providing personal care and home support, and then all the agencies. Then let's talk about the operational standards. But right now, government tends to focus on operational standards when there's really no legal requirement above that. So it's like building a house on a poor foundation. So I really, and I have said this to the minister, I really think we need to move forward quickly. And when I released this report, I said it could be done last year. Well, we're into this year now, and I really believe we need the continuum of care legislation in this province, because until we set standards that are legislated, we're never going to see significant change. They're going to pick around the edges, right? I will stop talking.
It seems to me, and I'm listening to you outline all of these, and it seems like, this should be a no-brainer. But it comes, and it seems to me it comes back down to resources all the time, because we took a call yesterday from a woman, very engaged, very focused, but with some physical issues. 90 years old, by the way, living on her own, and requires home care. And there, as she outlined to us yesterday, no home care workers in her particular area. So how do we address, because everybody right now is crying out for resources and labor and frontline workers and the like. So how do we make home care attractive to people? You mentioned salaries and compensation, but how do we ensure that there are people there to do the job when, in many cases, as we know, demographics have changed and lifestyles have changed, and the families are not as big as they once were, and there's not enough help in families for seniors?
We have to focus more on the system whereby people can employ a home support worker outside of an agency. I'm not saying the agency piece doesn't need to be fixed. It does. I mean, the oversight, the training, the education, the on-the-job training and oversight, all of that, I mean, holding these agencies accountable to ensuring that when an employee is hired, they're provided training, that they're supported throughout the work, that the client can be ensured that someone's going to come and check in on them, all that. But per capita, the most seniors in this province are living in rural Newfoundland and Labrador. You're more likely to be able to get someone outside of an agency in some of the most rural areas of this province. But no one wants the job because, frankly, they're not, compensation is a big piece of it. And so we're disproportionately impacting rural Newfoundland and Labrador by not fixing the home support system. And I really do think part of it is about the salary, and definitely much of it is about the training. I heard you had a caller on, she was a home support worker who was privately paid, and in other words, employed by the client, not by an agency. And she hit the nail on the head. I mean, the problem is, or the value of that approach is, you can be much more flexible in responding to the needs of the client from an hour, your hours perspective, those kind of things, geographic issues. Sometimes people want someone they're familiar with. It's like we can't box ourselves into just one approach that it all has to be agency based. I'm not saying that we need agencies too. That's important, and we need to regulate them, and we need to ensure that they're regulating their workers, and providing them support. But we also need to fix that home, that private pay system, so that people want to go into the work, that they see it as valuable, that it's seen as valuable by the community, and that's why I liken it to the ECE group. It really needs to be addressed, and at this stage, I know government's focused on the home support agencies piece. We need to also focus on that other piece, or we're not going to really get at some of the most elderly people who are living in very rural Newfoundland and Labrador.
As you say, agencies are great. They're fantastic. But like you say, some people might be more comfortable hiring the person themselves. But again, that whole compensation piece comes into play. So what is government's role in helping to alleviate that cost and to make sure that a person is properly compensated? Because in many cases, the senior just doesn't have the resources to pay them what they're worth.
Yeah, so few issues there. The first one is that the provincial government had received federal funding to help people age well at home, and did use some of that money to increase the salary range for home support workers without any, to my knowledge, significant requirement for improvements for that group. So in other words, they didn't say you'll get more money if you get a certain level of education or, that kind of thing. They just gave out the money. So, okay, fair enough. But they didn't include those people that I'm talking about who are privately employed by the client. They only gave that money that increase in salary to workers employed by an agency. So that's problem one. Second issue is, yes, absolutely, government has a role to play as it relates to the co-pay issue. So right now we have a situation where every single person who is a senior who qualifies for home support has a co-pay. Some of them co-pays can be $400, $700, $800 a month. Like, these are not cheap co-pays. It's not a low amount. And you can be in a situation where at 64, you were on income support. That was your primary income source, and your home support was free. At 65, all of a sudden, you won the lotto apparently overnight. I don't know. I really haven't figured out why government thinks you've become rich overnight, but now you have a copay. I have heard from many, many seniors who can't afford the copay and either go without the support and consequently get sicker faster, right, because they're not getting what they need, or they end up in a conjugate living like long-term care, personal care, something like that more quickly because they just can't afford to pay the copay. It's too high. And we are one of the few provinces in this country that don't provide home support free of charge to seniors 65 plus. Certainly, we're higher than majority of provinces in terms of the copay. It's ridiculous. So, I talked about we got to improve the resources in the community. That's a no-brainer. Then we need this continuous care legislation to provide the rights for seniors through all these different, like home support, long-term care, personal care. We need to enshrine the rights in legislation, like most other provinces have done for years. And then after all of that, I did want to touch on this whole business of the alternate level of care. So we keep hearing, okay, well, seniors are blocking beds. No one uses those terms anymore, right? Blocking beds. But that's what they're saying. They're saying, the seniors are blocking up the beds in acute care, and they're keeping people who need to get into those beds from, being able to get their surgeries, etc. Well, Linda, and what happens is they get discharged then from hospital, but they're still in the bed, and that's what they're calling alternate level of care to some degree. Now, they're starting to build alternate level of care facilities, too, so they're moving them into these other places. My concern with that is the level of care in terms of rehab in those facilities and in those alternate level care beds is little to none. Okay, so you're not getting the physio, OT, all that stuff that you need to, and so you're getting more frail more quickly, and the patient is paying for a lot of the costs while they're in those beds because they're discharged from hospital, but they're still there. So we're hearing from seniors who are getting bills for thousands of dollars for their medications and other things while they're waiting to go somewhere. And now, this is the fallacy I want to dispel. People are saying, seniors are blocking the beds because, there's not enough long-term care beds. But the truth is, 24% of those seniors in ALC go home. Okay? 28 go to long-term care, 28%, but 24% go home. So let's not just think that we have a problem with not enough long-term care beds. There's not enough resources at the community level. And I have met with almost every single allied health professional group in the last 2 years, and every one of them is telling me we could do more at the community level if we were supported and resourced to do so. And they're not. It's not. You can't get the level of access to OT, physio, those kind of things until you end up in the emerge after something's happened. It's wrong.
Susan Walsh.
I could go on and on. Sorry.
Susan Walsh, you're going to be missed. When are you wrapping up your career?
It's a big mouthful, my career. May 19th is when I retire. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's going to be it's a sad day for me too. I have to tell you honestly. It's a labor of love here in this job.
It absolutely is, and I can tell that when you speak about these issues. And you've got a big gauntlet that you're going to be passing on. So hopefully now your replacement is, if they're even a fraction, have a fraction of the passion that you carry, we should do well. Susan, I really appreciate
Linda?
your time. All the best.
I know you need a break. I know you do. Can I just say really quickly?
Absolutely.
The good news story is the timing is right, and this is why. And I'm not sure people picked up on this. the legislation for my office is about to change. So this new government is now introducing new legislation that will see my office have investigation powers and individual advocacy, much like the Child Youth Advocate. And I have to tell you, when Premier VOCM called me and asked me what I thought about that, did I think that would be useful and helpful for seniors, I nearly jumped out of my skin. Like, that is wonderful. I really commend this new government for doing this. The bill is had first reading in the House of Assembly. It's not public yet. Like, they haven't released the actual legislation. But when that comes in, we will have the authority here to investigate serious situations in long-term care and personal care, all the things that we hear about from so many families, all these sad situations, and I can't wait to see how that's going to play itself out.
Susan, hopefully we speak again before you call it a day, but I really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Your thoughts on what she's had to say, by all means, give us a call. We'll be back right after this. And we're back. We're going now to Harrison. You're on the air. Hi, Harrison.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
What brings you to us this morning?
Okay, I'm one of the owners in ST Cafe downtown.
Okay.
And we saw a wallet in front of the cafe on Sunday.
Okay.
So we put online on social media, but no one is coming. But the wallet has international passport.
Oh, okay.
And international ID card. We have some US dollars and Canadian dollars inside the wallet. Mm-hmm. So I'm just worried someone that came to visit the province, because some of the guys from the Navy ship came to the cafe. So I'm thinking it's one of them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I'm just worried. So I said I should call you guys, put it on air, and let them know we have the wallet in our cafe.
So are the boats still in the harbor?
Yes.
I don't know, Harrison, if you wanted to maybe go to the gates there and let the commissionaires know at the gates that you have this wallet. They might have contact with people on those boats, or maybe the St. John's Harbor Authority.
Okay.
They might. They would also know how to contact the ship's captains, for instance, and then you can give them the name. I'm assuming there's a name associated with this, and they might be able to know.
Yeah, Rafael Mateo, and I think he's born in in France.
Oh, in France. Okay, so yeah, there's a French patrol ship in town, and there is also a Spanish frigate, I think, in town. Yeah.
In town, yes.
So that might be two options for you to try and reunite, because no doubt he must be in an absolute panic right now.
I know.
Oh, absolutely. Harrison, thanks for raising it, but that's what I would try if I were you. I'd go to the gates there at St. John's Harbor and speak to the commissionaires there at the gates, and they might be able to bring that to the ship and see, or at least give you information, or give the boat information that they can connect that sailor with his stuff.
All right, I will do that right now.
And thanks so much for raising it. He's going to be very thankful when he knows that it's in safe hands.
Yes, I know.
All right, Harrison, all the best to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And if that sailor from Lyon in France is listening, or somebody who knows him is listening, Rafael Mateo, then they can contact him and let him know that SD Cafe in St. John's has his wallet. We're going to go now to Glenn Royal. You're on the air. Hello, Glenn.
Good morning, Linda. Long time no chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Great job, yourself and Brian and Tim have been filling in since Patrick's departure at home. Hopefully his successor will be named soon.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The reason for my call this morning is kind of following up on some of the issues of, the statutory office. You just had the seniors advocate on Susan Walsh. I know they've just put through some new legislation concreting the disability advocate's office. I'm thinking with the state and the work that I've done around and the advocacy around mental health, I think potentially an office of mental health advocate needs to be created due to the fact that, they're saying that under the disability advocate's office, you're going to deal with a lot of, physical as well as learning, cognitive. But I think, throwing mental health or psychological issues under that particular office will be, a lot to take on, knowing that there's a lot of mental health issues and addiction issues out in the community. And I did write the Premier back several months ago, and I did get a response from Minister Evans. And she kind of said they have the Advisory Council, the Recovery Council, the Indigenous Council, as well as, patient relations within Mental Health Services, and the Citizen Rep, which is a statutory office. But I think a lot of those pieces are, part of government, and having an independent office that have, advocacy issues that could go after individual cases or that investigative power as Susan's office now will soon have over there, I think is something that the province may need to take on, because in other jurisdictions like in Alberta and in Ontario, in the United States and in the UK and elsewhere, they do have a similar sort of office. So something to kind of be brought to the public airways to see what, thought could be brought to that.
That's a very interesting concept, because when you think about, many of the issues that we're facing here in Newfoundland and Labrador, related to mental health and addictions concerns, an advocate seems like a good first step.
Absolutely. And due to the fact that, you've seen in media stories, including your own station, over the last number of months and years of people falling through the cracks and ending up being, justice, systems versus health systems at all. Even though, I give great credit to the government for the work that they've done, a new mental health facility at all, maybe another layer to bring accountability to the system, because you hear all these stories how the system fails a particular loved one, family or friends or otherwise sort of thing. So I think it would be something that, if this new government is looking to, score points with the public as well as do good for the public, I think it could be a good idea to move across for, the well-being of, people, because you look at the cost of living, the affordability, the stress people are under this day, there's much more people dealing with mental health and addiction issues than they were dealing with when we were much younger, Linda. So I think it's a no-brainer.
Well, thanks for raising it, Glenn. I really appreciate that this morning. We'll see what others have to say about it. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Linda. All the best with you and everything with the VOCM. You're doing a great job for the community.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we hope to hear from you. We're going now to Trevor. You're on the air. Hi, Trevor.
Hi, Linda. Good morning.
How are you?
Good, thanks. I'm calling from 211. Actually, I'm the provincial coordinator for the 211 service. We're an information and referral and assessment service, and we can refer people to a number of helpful services and supports in the province. Basically, any government or community or nonprofit service that's in our database, we can do an assessment for people, let them know if they qualify for that service and if it's available to them in their area, and then we can make a referral to them. The reason I'm calling today is because it's tax season, and there's a lot of people out there that could benefit from the disability tax credit and some of the commensurate benefits that come with that. And I just want to let people know that they can reach out to 211. They can go to our database at 211.ca, or for Newfoundland and Labrador, nl.211.ca, and they can search our database in that way. But they can also, if they're not comfortable using the internet or if they'd rather talk to somebody live, they can dial 211 on their phone at any time and reach out to us that way and have a conversation with one of our navigators, most of whom are social workers or counselors, and they can learn about the disability benefit, the provincial and national one. They can learn about the Registered Disability Savings Program and see if they qualify for that as well.
I have to be honest, I didn't even know this service existed.
Well, it's only been in Newfoundland now for about 5 years, So and it came here as a result of the pandemic. But yeah, a lot of people are not aware about the 211 service, which is why I try to do as much media as I can and promotion and create partnerships with local agencies in Newfoundland and Labrador, and let people know that 211 is here and we're here to help. Our motto is "Help starts here," and we consider ourselves the front door to help in the province. So, if there's any services or supports that exist in the province, if they're in our database, we can let people know about them and how to avail of them.
What a fantastic service! So, Trevor, you're obviously what's your title with all of this?
Well, I'm the Community Partnerships Coordinator for the province. And so basically we have myself and the province as staff. We operate under the auspices of the United Way. So it's a partnership between United Way and 211 and an organization called Find Help that does our telephone infrastructure and our information technology and our website and that kind of thing to get the information out there to the public. But yes, I also want to add that we're looking to add more services and supports to our database. And so we want to make sure that, any services that are out there are represented in the database and that our service navigators can let people know about them when they call. And so if people want to go to our website, it's nl.211.ca, and they can search our database to see if their government office or their service, community or nonprofit service are listed in the database. And if not, they can go to our Contact Us page, and then they can click on the Suggest a New Program listing. And it's a very simple form that people can fill out. Our database editor, who's in the province, she's in St. John's, she can reach out to people after the fact and vet their information and make sure that it's all accurate. And then we can go through the process of getting them into the database and sharing that information with the public. And we have around 1,400 different services and supports in the database that we can refer people to. We're available 24 hours a day. Just dial 211 at any time. And we can offer services and supports in over 150 different languages. And as I said before, our navigators are typically social workers or trained counselors, so they know how to talk to people appropriately and with empathy. They're all very friendly. They're all very helpful. And we just encourage people to call if they need help with anything. If it exists in the province, then hopefully we can connect people to it.
What a fantastic resource. And yeah, so if I'm involved in an organization that has, let's say, for instance, Meals on Wheels, and I'm not listed there, I can give you guys a call, let you know that I have this service, and you can add it to your database so you can let people know.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's our goal, is to identify whatever resources are out there and to connect people to it as efficiently and appropriately as we can.
Well, that's fantastic, Trevor. Thanks so much for letting us know about it. If I didn't know about it, I'm sure there's a lot more people who didn't know about it either. So what a fantastic resource. 211.
Yes, absolutely. Please call or go to the website at 211.ca, and we're here to help.
Thanks, Trevor.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Linda. You have a nice day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
What a great resource. I didn't even know that existed. That's fantastic. We're going to go now to the caller on line 3. Hello.
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 Yes, Linda?
Yes, it is.
Yes, good morning. Yeah. I'm just calling. Not a call I wanted to make this morning, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do, right? So I just want to reach out to someone in the Department of Fisheries, hoping that they'll hear us and get in touch with us, because we're trying to do an application for processing of species that, I'll just get to I'll give you an highlight of, it's a small fish plant in Stoneville, and right now we're not doing so good this year, and that's got a lot to do with decisions that the Department of Fisheries have made over the years. We've been fighting for 10 years. We knew this was coming. It's a sea urchin plant, and so this year we're not doing so well. The workers may not even get their hours. So the owner wants to diversify into other species. And we can't get an answer from the Department of Fisheries on how to fill out the application or get the application on the go. So all we want to do is we want to process what is already being shipped out, not processed. Now, we got no, if people want to ship out, that's fine. We got no issues with that. But we want to be able to process what is being shipped out right now. that's not processed to keep our plant going up. Like, it used to be 30 plus people, but it's not that anymore, right? So we want to have a longer season, but we can't seem to get any answer from DFO on how to get that process going.
Would your first stop not be the provincial fisheries minister? Because
yes, we've done all that, and we've been talking to the premier, and he said that he will call the Department of Fisheries, right, and get them to contact us. But that was like a couple of weeks ago, and we still haven't heard anything. So, it should be a really simple, straightforward thing, right? I mean, we want to keep our plant going. We want to keep those workers, in work. And we're only asking to process what is already being shipped out, not processed.
Right.
Maybe no one will ship to us. Maybe some will.
But would that not fall under the jurisdiction of the provincial government because they're in charge of the processing side of things?
Yeah, we can't get an answer. It seems like there is no application out there for this or anything. So we want someone from the Department of Fisheries to contact us and give us an answer either way. Because right now, there's a lot of money being spent into the plant to diversify into those other species. And the time is coming, when we need to get at this. We need the application done. We need to know we're going to be able to do this, right? Because the money is being spent there in the plant to diversify into those other species. But we can't seem to get anywhere. It's like, as a plant worker, it was hard for me to believe that this is happening. Those people, we all need work, right? And this year we hardly got any. And that had to do with some decisions that were made, like by the Department of Fisheries. We knew this was coming. Those changes weren't made, right?
I know that the argument was made that the owner wanted access to grounds beyond the area that is currently overfished, right, and that sort of thing, and that would be DFO's jurisdiction. But you're talking about something different here now, which I would think would fall under the provincial side of things, but I don't know.
It doesn't matter to me. Yeah, it doesn't matter to me what it falls under. I just like for whoever it falls under to be able to contact us and let us know what's happening. If this is possible, if it's not possible, if it is possible, how do we apply for it, and how do we get this application on the go? That's my main goal. And also to let Newfoundland and Labradorians know that there is a small plant out in Stoneville that is employing people and giving people work, and we need to get this, they're shipping out, not processed. We want to process. Why such a complicated issue? We just don't know.
All right. Well, you've raised the issue. We'll see what others have to say about it, and maybe you'll get the call you're looking for. I would imagine that it's the jurisdiction of the owner to make those calls and inquiries, and set those balls in motion. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been. The premier even called him and said, "I'm going to call the Department of Fisheries. I'm going to get them to contact you." But no one has come forward. We can't reach anyone. We don't know where to go next. So this is why I wanted to call in, and hopefully someone is listening that knows something.
Okay. We have to leave it there. I'm overdue for the news, but thanks for raising it. We'll see. Let us know if there's any updates.
Okay,
right.
Thank you. I will.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye. And we're up to news now with Sarah Strickland. And we're back. We're going now to Dr. Jennifer Lokash, Provost and Vice President Academic at Memorial University. Hello, Dr. Lokash.
Good morning, Linda.
How are you this morning?
I'm just fine. How are you?
Great. What brings you to us this morning?
So there's been some conversation on both the radio and in social media about some changes that we're making to our first-year math program, and it involved some non-renewal of some teaching contracts. And I thought I would hop on to clarify some points. First of all, I really want to make the point that these contractual teaching instructors are delivering, high-quality education education to our students. My comments in the media are not, and these decisions about not renewing contracts are not in any way a comment on the quality of teaching at Memorial, which, as we know, is generally exceptional, and our contract instructors have been a very vital part of delivering on Memorial's teaching mission. There's also been some suggestion that these operational decisions to not renew contracts are somehow easy, and I really want to make the point that none of the decisions that we are making right now at Memorial University are easy. We're talking about people. It is absolutely understandable that there's anxiety and concern around job security, and I just want to acknowledge that right off the top.
And so this decision was made to cut the number of contractual teaching positions from 6 to 1. So what kind of an impact will that have on the students?
So, first of all, I think it's important to remember that our enrollment, as well as our funding, is contracting. We are looking at declining numbers. So the demand for first-year math is significantly less than it was, say, 5 years ago. Like what we're seeing right now is a drop of about 1,200 registrations in first-year math courses, which, if we project out to the spring 2026 semester, that's a 30% drop. So the demand for seats and sections is lower in math. So the need for teaching resources is just simply going to be lessened. So that's part of the practicality of reducing our number of contracts. We are intending to increase the average class size a little bit, and I know there's been some commentary that we're doubling class sizes. So I do just want to clarify that we are not doubling class sizes. In one course, the average class size will go from 75 up to 112, and in another, it'll go from an average class size of 112 to 160. So, to say that that's a doubling is an exaggeration there. No student who needs math will not be able to get a seat in math. So that's important to note. And I think, historically, we've also offered math courses with numbers larger than what we're proposing now when our enrollments were higher. So, so that's not really overly concerning. We're also hoping to, you're asking about impact on students, to make use of some different slots during the day. And there's been some commentary about proposing to use an 8 a.m. slot. Well, between 2010 and 2019, that was a slot regularly in use in the math department. In fact, it was a popular slot. There's been a suggestion that outcomes are poorer at that time. Our data does not show that at all. That's just simply not true. The averages are comparable to other slots during the day. And I think that the actual scheduling of courses, we think about that, what is to the student's advantage. And as I said, that 8 a.m. slot has been in high demand historically. So, I think that might be a good thing for students. And finally, I just want to comment on, larger class sizes. Sometimes folks will assume that means somehow, less attention being paid to the students. We have quite a robust system of supports around our math students, and I know that the Dean of Science is looking to amplify those wherever possible. So first of all, we have a first-year math help center, which gives one-on-one tutoring or mentoring. We have also a peer tutoring program, which, research shows that peer-to-peer tutoring is highly successful. We run that through our Center for Innovation in Teaching and Learning, and we use teaching assistants as well. And in fact, the Faculty of Science is considering piloting for math in this coming year what is a tried and true model elsewhere that combines large lectures delivered delivered by tenured or tenure track faculty, with smaller breakout sessions that are led by teaching assistants, which can give students a sort of close mentoring. And it has the added benefit of providing very valuable teaching experience to our graduate students. So, I understand that these changes are anxiety inducing for some, but we are really trying to respond to a decline in enrollments, a decline in funding, and in general, I think we're putting our mind to some of the outcomes in math that I think require some attention as well.
So to go back to what you said regarding the decline in enrollment, what's behind this drop of 1,200 students? That seems pretty huge.
So it's a lot, but if we look across at the national landscape, we are certainly seeing significant declines everywhere. We've done a lot of talking in the last year and a half around federal policy changing with study permits being restricted for international students. So, that population coming to Memorial University has significantly declined. Our demographics, within the province, they're steady right now. That's going to further decline. But when we're talking about a 30% drop, we have to align our teaching resources with that reality. Our contractual employees, that is one area where deans do have some discretion for reducing their costs.
And you mentioned outcomes. How does the changes that you're making address outcomes?
So, I think, first of all, having full-time faculty teaching math, that may change the outcomes a little bit. There are studies suggesting that full-time faculty should be teaching students, when they first come into universities, kind of bring them into the institution. But we do have a retention issue, I would say, at the university generally. But when we look at math, right now, what we're seeing is that 1 in 5 students fail their first-year math course, and a full 25% have to retake first-year math. And, you don't really have to do the math to know that that's going to cost students both time and money. And so, there are some significant barriers to progression and to program completion that we're seeing in math. And, we really are trying to encourage the department to again, bolster those supports and look at ways of improving outcomes.
So this is one faculty and one particular focal point, but I know there's a lot of difficult decisions being made at Memorial University right now. Is this the kind of thing we can expect in other departments as well?
I think it is happening in other departments. I think our deans are under tremendous pressure at the moment and simply don't have a lot of budgetary flexibility when it comes to reducing instructional costs. So there is. They do have some discretionary ability around contractual teaching, and we're scrutinizing every dollar that we're spending. So, to answer your question directly, yes, there are other contracts that aren't being renewed in other places across the institution. These are, as I said before, not easy decisions, but our financial challenges are real, and they demand action. And the university is under some significant pressure at the moment. But that, combined with the lower demand, does suggest that we can reasonably reduce our teaching costs a little bit.
And is what we're seeing at Memorial University right now unique to this province, or is it the same kind of thing that other universities are facing?
Yeah, no, this is unfortunately, there's some misery loves company happening here across Canada. We're seeing, many thousands of jobs, across the post-secondary sector going away. A strategist named Ken Steele in January reported that 17,000 jobs were lost in the sector, and 1,000 programs cut across Canada. So this is not just a Memorial problem. It is very much a universal, nationwide anyway, issue that we're all dealing with. It's very challenging.
Very challenging indeed. Dr. Jennifer Lokash, Provost, Vice President, Academic at Memorial University. We do appreciate your time and some of the context that you've provided here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the questions, Linda. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
We're going to take a short break. Anything that she said that you'd like to respond to, by all means, give us a call. And we're back on VOCM Open Line. And we were just having a chat during the break about gas prices. And usually in the metro region anyway, everybody knows where to go to get the lowest gas prices. Anybody who drives around knows where to scope that out. And right now, among the lowest prices are closing in on $1.70 a liter. And, that's going to have an impact just about everywhere and on everything. And one of my colleagues in the newsroom this morning was saying, they put $30 in their tank and they're like, where did that go? Where is it? What? I didn't even see the dial move on the meter. Wow. It's just amazing. Where is it all going to end is the question. We're going to go now to Mary. You're on the air. Hi, Mary.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you, Linda?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
What's on your mind?
Well, Linda, I'd like to just, have touch base on the conversation that was online there yesterday morning about the long-term care homes and the home care.
Okay.
A few years ago, I'm not going to mention no names or anything, or names of the agency or whatnot. I was working into this long-term home on training for about 6 weeks, and I've seen a lot. I've seen that we had to be taken and pulled off of the floor and brought into the client's room. 9 o'clock in the morning, we would have to have 3 baths done within an hour, and we would be assigned to 4 clients each, right? And I found that dinner time, they would take us off of the floor after attending to the clients and that, like they're incontinent, etc., and have to take them to the bathroom. And then we would have to go in and serve the food in that. So I don't think that's a good idea, for starters. Another thing was that COVID was on, and myself personally, I hate the mask, same with anybody else, but we had to have them on. So the manager caught me coming out of the room for the first time, and she went and kind of scolded me about it. And I told her, I said, listen, when I come back, I said, I'll make sure that I don't have my mask off into the room at any time, because I'm into the room with the client, and the client got hers on. And when I'm leaving to go and to another client, just for a break, I take it off my face. So just because of that, I was on the training for 6 weeks, and I was told not to bother to come back anymore because I was giving the clients too much attention. Now, this client was sick, and she needed the attention. So I used to do her vital signs, her blood pressure, and I used to go in with a cloth. And she told me it was the most care that she got since she's been in there for the last 5 years. But now she's passed now 2 years ago. And I just want to bring it to your attention. They should be hiring more staff for starters, because they do need to have the attention also, the poor clients, not ringing their buzzers, and you go in to see what's wrong. Oh, no, don't go to her, she's always doing that. They need attention. And yes, the incontinence, etc., I don't believe in that, like, working around between serving food and doing their personal care and that. And that's what I just wanted to touch base with you this morning about.
Sure. So you worked in long-term care. Are you working in long-term care now?
No, I'm with home care.
Oh, you're with home care.
Years.
Would you go back to a long-term care facility?
Oh, yeah, in a heartbeat. But, I felt bad because I was on my not holiday, but Christmas. It was Christmas. So I was off for that weekend. First time in the 6 weeks I was there. And I was surprised. Manager went and called me and told me that there's no need of me coming back, that she was going to be laying me off just because of those things, right? Okay. Now, that's a thing in the past, but the other thing is that when you go into the homes, excuse me, another thing I don't agree with, when you go into the homes, not long-term, I'm talking about as a caregiver, they have homemaking, they have personal care, and they have respite. Now, sometimes that you go into the home, they don't want the personal care. And we have to use it up as homemaking, whereas we can't do it for respite to just put down that we sat with them or something like that. But now take them to the doctors or etc. like that. That's totally different, right? You can do the respite. But, the client should be able to have their respite also, because don't go in. I hate going into the homes and rushing in or rushing out. I work with an agency, and our agency is pretty good, I must say. But I've seen a lot into it was 2 homes that I was into. Before that, it was another one. But now I only went in there to be trained, because I'm not a PCA, and without your PCA course, you can't get into long-term care hospital up here, the new one that was built. I would love to be able to work in there. So I just want to bring it to your attention that there is a few things that's going on into the homes that really isn't called for.
Mary, thanks for your perspective on that. Maybe we'll hear from others and see what they have to say about it as well. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention it and touch base with you, because I understand the callers when they call in. Myself personally, I'm a good home care worker. I've been for the last 14 years, and I decided to just branch out to something different. So I put this application in there, and I liked it and everything. But I was there for 6 weeks, and just because I got caught coming out with putting my mask on outside of the door, and not they said that I wasn't doing my work. I was attending to the clients too much. But isn't that what long-term care is? You do with the clients? Not take them, put them in the chair down into the corner like I've seen another a few done, right? Put them to the corner into their wheelchair, God bless his soul, and that's another one. He's deceased now too, but I used to take him up, and they caught me a couple of times, and they said, "I'm sorry, Mary, you can't be doing that." So they forgive me the first time, and then the other couple of times they said, "I'm sorry, but if you keep this up, you're not going to be able to come back." I'm very compassionate with my work, right, Linda?
I hear you, and unfortunately, I can't speak to the circumstances that you were facing there, but no doubt that there's a workflow that has to be met and that sort of thing. Yeah. But I hear what you're saying, Mary. Thanks for your call this morning.
All right, Linda. You take care.
Okay.
You're doing a great job.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'd like to hear from you. But in the meantime, we've had a really busy first half of the program. We have a few lines that are open now. So if you're trying to get through and you had some difficulty, now is your opportunity to do so. And we're back. We're going now to Teresa. You're on the air. Hi, Teresa.
Hi, I'm talking about the income tax packages. I called that number, and they said that it's going to take 10 business days in order to send it out. And then you have to wait to make sure the postal is going to deliver them. And it's very frustrating. I think the CRA should send some packages out to the post office and give people a break.
So just to keep our listeners in the loop here, what are you talking about the income tax packages?
The income tax returns that you send in.
Right.
Yes. I mean, they want you to go on the computer and print off the schedules and all of the material you need to send in your income taxes. But my God, that can cost a fortune, especially if you help other people out.
Oh, I see. Okay. So you'd like to have them readily available, and they're not?
Yes, they should be.
Can you go to like CRA and get something like that?
You can call and ask them to send you out some forms, but like I said, you know, it takes 10 days, and then you got to wait on the post office to deliver them. You know, it's very frustrating.
So how did they used to be available? Because I remember one time having those packages in my hands. I haven't done income tax, you know,
right,
with paper in a long time.
They used to send anybody who sent in a paper tax form, the government would automatically send you out your tax form. And they also made them available at the post office. Now they're not available at the post office, and they're not just sending out individual tax forms to people.
Right. So you want an income tax form or forms or the package,
yes.
And you have to wait for it to be delivered to you.
Yes. And can you imagine all the people who don't want to do the internet waiting on tax forms?
Yeah, it's I mean, this is the way of the world now, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your perspective. And it's getting harder for people to do things the old analog way, so to speak. But it still amazes me that those kinds of things are not available somewhere for someone.
Yes. I mean, they're taking people's right from doing a paper return because it's so difficult in getting it.
Yeah. Teresa, thanks for raising it. We'll see if there's anybody out there who knows where you could get your hands on an income tax form. They used to have them. I want to say they used to have them in the pharmacies, but maybe that's because that's where the post outlets used to be.
Yes, at the post office. Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I really don't know because it's been so long since I've done that myself. But if anybody happens to know, they're certainly welcome to give us a call. So even if you were to physically put yourself at CRA here in St. John's, would you be able to get it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, good question. Maybe somebody knows.
Yeah, well, hopefully they'd get a bit of compassion in their brain and send out some tax forms to the post office so people can pick them up and, you know, either do them themselves or have somebody do them for them, right?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. All right, and so you must do some for other people as well, do you?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
But I know people who do.
Who do, yeah. Very good. Well, Teresa, thanks for raising it. We'll see what if anybody has any answers for you.
Right. Yeah, a lot of seniors don't realize they're not getting a package in the mail.
Okay.
You know? So if they're waiting for it, they ain't getting it.
Yeah. All right then, Teresa, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Anyone know how to get your hands on an income tax form, an actual physical piece of paper form? No, she says they're not available at the post office, David. David just offered up the post office, but she says they're not there. Anyway, anyone else who might, know, they can let us know. Interesting story in the news today about Honda. It's paused its plans for an EV manufacturing hub in Ontario and is now cancelling some of its plans for electric vehicles. Bloomberg is reporting that Honda has invested too much and too late in its short-lived electric vehicle boom and now finds itself saddled with an aging lineup and questions about its future as an automaker. And it raises interesting questions because the federal government, of course, is opening up the Canadian market to Chinese-made EVs, even as we're looking at the possibility of opening up EV manufacturing plants in this country. So will this added number of Chinese-made EVs entering our market have an impact on that? And what is the impact overall on the overall automotive industry? Anyway, anyone with thoughts on that, they're welcome to give us a call. And the lines have suddenly blown up. So we're going to go straight to the lines now. Danny, you're on the air. Hi, Danny.
Yeah, I was talking to Dave yesterday. That that doctrine out in Bull Arm, that's going to be like Spun Greenhouse.
Why do you say that?
Because it's going to work until it runs out. No more money. No guaranteed. Like it was dumped on Newfoundland. That's what happened. And it dumped on Newfoundland. And this is what's going to happen to this dock. It's going to be dumped on us, and it might not work for us.
Okay. The provincial government sees that as an opportunity, especially when it comes to shipbuilding needs.
Yeah, but like hockey, we had ice caps, we had the growlers and all that. That didn't work out.
Okay. I'm not sure what the correlation is there with a dockyard at Bull Arm.
Well, I don't think it's going to work.
Okay. I hear what you're saying. All right, Danny, we'll see what others have to say. Thanks for your call.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we hope to speak with you. So the phones have blown up with people who are offering advice to Mary about where to get a tax form. And we've got a series of phone numbers that have been given to us, but I think that she may have already gone down that route, saying that that the forms will be mailed to her. That's not what she's looking for. She wants to know where to find them. Well, we got at least one call saying that your local MP's office should have some tax forms available, Mary. So try that. If not, we have a couple of phone numbers here for you to try. But wow, people coming out of the woodwork to tell us about ways to get physical tax forms. And if anybody wants to come on the air and share their experience with us, they are welcome to do so. Well, a big question that is being raised over the last little while is, will there be a folk festival this year? And the bigger question is, should the provincial government step in to help? This will be, of course, the Folk Fest's 50th anniversary, but of course they've faced some pretty serious setbacks over the last year or so, and many people feel that the folk festival is a cultural tradition that is worth saving, but whether or not it can be salvaged this year remains to be seen. I do know there's a small group of very dedicated people who want to make sure that that happens, but they're facing some pretty serious odds when they're trying to put that all together. So the question is, and it was raised in the House of Assembly yesterday by the MHA for St. John's Kitty Vitty, Sheila O'Leary, is the provincial government willing to help? Well, the minister indicated that it is a cultural treasure. Government understands that, but did not offer any commitment as to whether or not the provincial government will be willing to make any kind of financial contribution to ensure that that goes ahead this year. Some people felt that the folk festival had gone a little bit astray, too big, too far from what its roots were, and change is always good, but a lot of people felt that what made the folk festival charming and approachable was the fact that it was kind of low key, if you know what I'm saying. So when it started to get really big and organized, that's not what I want to say, organized, but when it started to feel very commercial, if you will, maybe, then some people started to feel very like it had lost its way. And you'd love to see big headliners there and that, but when you think about the folk festival, it is very much a kind of a grassroots, local kind of thing. Anyway, if you have any thoughts on that, you're certainly welcome to give us a call. And it's been tough for a lot of music festivals and the like this year in trying to secure those all-important live acts to get people out and on the go. And some, like Iceberg Alley, for instance, had to take a little bit of a hiatus because of the competitive nature of live bookings and securing live acts, and also just the general people still love going out to see live shows, but the number of acts, I guess, that are on the go and what it takes to draw someone to a place like Newfoundland and Labrador seems to some to be rather more difficult these days. So it's something that a lot of people have been talking about lately, and if you want to talk about it, you can as well, because spring is in the air. And the summer music festival season is upon us. And of course, so many rural communities as well rely on this type of entertainment to get people out to their corner of the world and enjoying the very unique things that make Newfoundland and Labrador such a special place to be and to show off what we have to offer. So it's an issue that is really starting to hit home in a lot of ways. If you have any thoughts on that, you're welcome to give us a call. We have Dave is off the charts on the other side of the glass talking to people, but nobody wants to come on the air for some reason. So you're left talking to me unless you want to pick up the phone and give us a call and talk about things that are of interest to you. Well, in a little while, we're going to get an update on the Bank of Canada's latest interest rate announcement. Comes down around 11:30 Newfoundland time, and it's going to be interesting to see how Tiff Macklem navigates the current world situation. Each adjustment period that he's participated in the last, 3 or 4 times, he's sort of held the line on interest rates but always open to the fact that it could change given the very volatile nature of not only oil and gas prices, but particularly geopolitical situations. And now they're tied in one and the same these days, of course. So it's going to be interesting to see where Tiff Macklem goes with this, whether or not we're going to see any further reductions in interest rates. I know that a lot of people are seeking relief wherever they can find it, and this is something that the provincial government as well is going to have to contemplate and is contemplating very seriously as it puts together its very first budget. A lot of people anxious, eager, want to see some form of relief for the rising cost of living, because we haven't seen any relief, have we? I mean, in terms of the general price of things, groceries, services, gas, the list goes on and on and on. And many people are looking for some form of relief. There are a lot of people here who haven't seen their salaries increase to the degree that the interest that general inflation has. A lot of people haven't seen, a lot of people on fixed incomes, and that's what you make, and that's all it's going to be. So rents, heating, the list goes on and on. There doesn't seem to be any real meaningful relief in sight for a lot of people. I know we got our power bill, and this is something that we've been talking about for quite a bit lately as well, and was shocked to see how much the power bill had changed from this point over last year, even though we burned more power last year than we did this year. So rate increases have been factored in there as well, and people want to see some relief. And the only relief that really government can offer there is in the form of taxation. But of course, that's revenue that pays for other things like roads and education and health care. So it's a tricky situation to find ourselves in. We look to a lot of big projects to help move things along economically and in terms of revenue. Bay du Nord is the big one that this provincial government is looking towards right now, of course, with an agreement reached not that long ago to get that project moving. But a lot of people still wondering about the Upper Churchill MOU and the status of that. I think, ostensibly a lot of people believe that it's dead, at least for the time being. We know that at some point it's going to have to be revisited, and it's going to have to be revisited very soon. But whether or not we can benefit to the same degree, or if there's more that we can benefit from, will remain to be seen, particularly given the political situation in Quebec right now. All things to consider and to think about. If you want to join the show and talk about something that I've raised, or that another caller has raised, or that's been on your mind and you're itching to get it off your chest, here is the time to do so. The numbers to call coming up shortly, but here is your opportunity. The phones have been ringing off the hook, but for whatever reason, they're not joining us on the show. So here is your chance. We have lines open, and we're up to news time now with Sarah Strickland.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line.
Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
And we're back. We're going now to Brian, who's on the air. Hello, Brian.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Look, I was on the phone the other day, and I slept in. Do you know that many years ago, there was a great senior hockey league in St. John's, they had a lot of interest. There were 5 teams, St. Pat's, St. Bon's, Holy Cross, the Guards, and the Fenians. St. Bon's were the kings of the league. They won the cup, the World Trophy donated by Sir Cavendish Boyle. They won it 27 years in a row. And 66 years ago, on the 16th of March, St. Pat's put an end to that when they defeated St. Bon's, I believe, in 4-2. The game was brought to you on VOCM by the famous Bob Cole. Now, my friends at St. Bon's don't like me. I'd phone into Paddy around this time every year, and I would remind them that St. Pat's beat St. Bon's, and St. Bon's had great players. They had the Gillis brothers. They had Merv Green and Gold. They had great players. Only St. Pat's had a few better. So I want to remind my friends from St. Bon's that it's been 66 years ago, and I think they're still upset about it.
And you're still rubbing it in.
And I'm still rubbing it in. The other thing I want to talk about is Donald Trump.
Okay.
Now, the other day, Donald Trump, as he does, was complaining that different countries were not helping them, and he felt so bad about it, and he was so upset about it. You know, I'd like to tell you something. I taught in Western Canada for many, many years, and one year we had a student teacher in our school, and one day the priest had to come to see her, and they went into a private office together. And the news that he had to tell her was that her brother, who was in the armed forces for Canada, had been killed in Iraq. I always remember her face, Linda. And to think of Donald Trump, that idiot, saying that we didn't help out the Americans. Now, many of my friends are Americans, but I will say that what he had to say hurt them deeply. I'm sure hurt that girl if she heard it deeply. Do you know that we sent friends to Afghanistan to help out George Bush? They invoked it, the Clause 5 of the agreement. You attack one country, you attack them all. And, you know, I'm really hurt. And I suggest, I really do, that at the next ceremony at the War Memorial, I think that we do invite people from the American consulate. I think we should leave them out. I feel so bad for our young people who went over to God knows where, Vimy Ridge, and those places, who gave their lives. They were only young people. And to think of Donald Trump, who a couple of years ago said they were fools and they got nothing out of it, has once again made a bad comment. We had people go to Iraq and Afghanistan, and they died. I think Donald Trump should shut his mouth and stop hurting people. I feel very, very bad, and I really do.
Well, I mean, he solicited gasps when he made those same claims during the World Economic Forum before countries that had suffered great losses in places like Afghanistan and Iraq. So you can't insult people to their faces and then tariff them, no end, and affect their economies, and then say, well, where are you? How come you're not helping me?
And then how about the people in Gander? How about the airports in Gander? Where were they at 9/11? They made a Broadway play about it. You know, we're out there helping the Americans as much as they're out there helping us. And I think Donald Trump, the President of the United States, the leader of the Americans, has said this is just appalling. Thank you for allowing me to state my views this morning, and you're doing a good job.
All right, thanks very much. And I guess the crowd at St. Pat's will be happy to hear you rub it in against St. Bon's this morning.
And you know, I had a good friend here. He worked with the oil industry, and he came from Texas. He sent his friend from St. Bon's. And when his son graduated, they invited me, and I went to it. And I met some of people who are grandfathers. And I met them. They said, "We never thought you'd ever wear a priest around St. Bon's." But I still rub it in.
Brian, thanks for your call this morning.
God bless you.
All righty. Bye-bye. What shall we do here? Shall we take a short break, David, and then get back to our callers who are waiting on the line? That's what we'll do then. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we hope to hear from you. And we're going now to the caller on line 2. Hello.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yeah, I just wanted to... I just hope our Minister of Health is listening, Leah Evans. I'm going to be talking about the MTAP, the Medical Transportation Assistance Program.
All right, and she is well familiar with that one, of course, as you know.
Yeah, but I'm just going to uplighten her again. There's a change there that she got certainly changed as a beneficiary for all of us seniors. And the change that got to be changed is, like, when you submit a claim to get paid for under the MTAP, and you like the first time you apply, you have to use up 500 kilometers before you get paid for 1 kilometer. So, for instance, like if I had to leave my community and drive into St. John's and come back, that's 600 kilometers. So I lose the first 500. Okay, and that's got to change. And you have to pay up front $400 for your accommodation, which means roughly you had to stay 3 nights in order to get paid for 1. So you have to pay $400 for your accommodation and your meals at your own expense, and you have to lose 500 kilometers. Now, once this is used up, it's got a period running from April to April the next year. So if I accidentally had to go over April the 1st this year, put a claim in August of 2025, is April to April, I have to start over all again as when you start over first. That's what I mean. That's something like that got to change. Once you submit a claim under this program, let it stay as the claim and don't have to go back and repeat the same thing again when it goes over that 1 day, 1 year. So, Mrs. Evans, I hope you're listening, and I hope you can understand the issue that I'm just putting forward to you.
How frequently have you had to avail of the MTAP program?
Well, not only me, it's everybody that applies under this MTAP program. Mm-hmm. You got 12 months. Like, say, for instance, if I had to go, well, I've already applied, right? So April to April, say someone applies puts in a claim for April this year until April next year, but you got to use up their 500 kilometers. You got to go to 500 kilometers before they get paid for 1 kilometer, and you got to pay $40. Well, that's what, 2 nights at a hotel. You get paid that at your own expense. Then that's when you start to pay out $150 that we're entitled to. Now, April. The year passes, you got to start all over again. The same thing. But that Mrs. Evans, is something that got to change. Once you puts in a claim, let it stay as a claim. Don't let us have to start all over again. You understand what I'm saying, Linda? Okay, so like you say, you've got 500 kilometers in, let's say, for instance, for 1 calendar year, and then you surpass that by another day, and now you have to pay out of pocket for another 500 kilometers. When the year elapses. Yeah. Yeah, right? I hear what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. That got to change.
Yeah, because
that's what I'm telling you.
The difficulty is that a lot of follow-ups and the like happen
exactly.
on a yearly basis, and yeah, I hear what you're saying.
And like the hotel accommodations at a time, you got to stay 3 nights. Well, we $200. You got to pay out of pocket that $400. If he goes on the 3rd night, well, then that's when they pay you the $150, which you're entitled to. But you got to pay $400 before you get saved $1.
Yeah.
So it's a flaw there. It got to change. That's why I'm calling.
All right. Well, caller, I know it's a hot topic for an awful lot of people that have to rely on that program. I'd like to hear what others have to say.
Yes, but it's okay, but not to have us have to do the same repeat over again from April to when the year elapses.
Yeah, you're raising an interesting point. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I just hope, like I say, she's there. Blah 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 in the House of Parliament. I see them all there, and they're there. They're good for talking, but let you talking, do the action.
I appreciate.
And then you have to stay. You have to stay. I'm all right now. I got that point put across. So I just hope she's listening. And a lot of us other people that have to deal with this MTAP, right?
Well, she and her department are paying attention. I know that much.
Yeah. Well. Start doing a job as the Minister of Health, and you have a nice day.
All right, you too.
And I'll call you back some other day. I got another topic.
Okay, good. Do that.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye. We're going to go now to Leo. You're on the air.
Am I on the air?
Yes, you are.
Good morning. Good morning, Linda. I'm going to have to bear with me a bit now. I'm sort of... forgets my words and that, so probably have to give me a push once in a while.
No trouble.
But before I forget, I'd like to say to Barbara, who called in yesterday, keep up the good work, my dear. Keep up talking, because the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Okay. But anyway, what I'm calling about, I'm wondering about, and this is sort of funny because the fellow before me there was talking about Leila Evans, wondering about her. I'm wondering about her too.
Okay.
Because I'm wondering how many portfolios, I suppose the word is, how many of these have she got on her desk?
I think it's 4, is it not? Health and Community Services, Indigenous Affairs, Labrador Affairs, and Women and Gender Equality.
Yeah, she got seniors. That's where they push seniors.
No, I think seniors falls under something else.
Are you sure? Repeat again. What did she got on her? How many have she got? She got 4.
Health and Community Services.
Yeah.
Indigenous Affairs.
Yeah. Okay.
Labrador Affairs.
Yeah.
And Women and Gender Equality.
I
stand to be corrected, but that's the ones that come immediately to my mind.
Yeah. I thought that she had seniors. I was pretty sure because I was all upset about it, so I can sort of relax.
I think seniors might fall under Jody Wall. I stand to be corrected on that because some of those portfolios have changed somewhat in their scope.
It's a pretty touchy subject, the seniors racket. I wonders about it because I'm living. I'm 91. I'm still getting around, and I got a family that backs me up, so I haven't got too much to complain about. But I still makes me wonder, hearing people calling in and hearing the stuff that's going on, and have heard it for years, and don't change. And they say one of the things that they're crapping about all the time is we should support seniors to stay in our own homes. And for instance, and this is so damn hypocritical because, say, for instance, now I make up my mind to go into a home, into a personal care home. Well, they'll take my check, what I get, they give me $154 for pocket money, and then the government will subsidize that home up for $1,000 beyond my geez, I'm gone again.
No, that's all right.
Yeah.
Beyond what you're paying, yeah.
Yeah, they just take my pension and they subsidize. But why couldn't they, for instance, help out people that are trying to stay in their own homes? Why wouldn't they give us $1,000 a month? You know. But now, if we leave our apartments or our homes or whatever, and we move into a personal care home, then they'll give the personal care home that extra $1,000.
That's a good point.
This is one I've been wondering about for a long time, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and then you could pay for a bit of home care if you needed it, or...
Sure, yeah, that's right. Yes, exactly, yes. Now, I mean, say, I know I'm one of these people that, you know, I do believe that we're really asking for too much, and I'm going to get scorched for that one, because we give, and we're never satisfied, really, to a certain extent. Not my case, but in cases that I see, we're not getting enough. Well, we are to a certain extent, you know. I mean, see, I'm subsidized here in an apartment now, and I'm quite satisfied with that. And I mean, say, there's people, say, for instance, a man and his wife, say one of them dies, well, say the man dies, the wife is left by herself, she's left into a home, I mean, say that she's got, this is something else that bothers me too. I think that once we reach 65, if we're living in our homes, we should not have to pay property taxes. Now, that's one way of helping out seniors. Another way, you know, because a lot of seniors, say, for instance, they're paying, say, $200 a month to live in their own home. So that don't make sense to me, really. It really don't. But, I mean, say, one thing I've learned, the more things change, the more they stay the same. They always says that. And that goes for municipal government and the provincial and the federal. They're all the same, you know.
The money that's collected, of course, through property taxes goes towards the services that we face every day, garbage collection and roads and the like. But there are a lot of municipalities that offer seniors discounts.
Yeah, not in the one I came from, I'll tell you that.
Very good. Well, Leo, you're raising a lot of good points, and by the way, you're doing grand for 91.
Yeah. I'm so glad you can't see me pushing around a walker.
Well,
take it easy.
Well, I know. Well, you sound great anyway, Leo. Yeah. Thanks for your call this morning.
You're doing a good job. Stay at it, for God's sake. Don't let the...
Appreciate that, Leo. Thank you.
Yeah, take it easy. Take it easy.
Bye-bye. Leo raising a few points there. If you have any thoughts on what he's had to say, give us a call. And we're going to hear what the interest rates are going to be now any moment with the Governor Tiff Macklem about to make that announcement. So we'll keep you appraised of that right after the break. In the meantime, we have lines open. Now is your opportunity to call into the last half hour of the show.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
And the Bank of Canada is holding its benchmark interest rate at 2.25% as the economy performs below expectations and war in the Middle East threatens even higher inflation. So 2.25% for anybody who has a variable mortgage. That's a great relief, no doubt. We've been also, had a listener reach out to us who is expressing a bit of frustration about a situation unfolding in Kitty Vitty Village. Now, we know that the City of St. John's has imposed traffic calming measures in a number of areas of the city, usually thoroughfares, wider type roads. You see it on Topsail Road, for instance, as you approach the downtown. But in this particular case, this is a listener who wants to see traffic calming measures imposed in Kitty Vitty Village, where the road is extremely narrow. A lot of people use that area as a thoroughfare to get around the base of the pond there, and it's simply not safe. According to this listener, the speeds there, people going through that area, too high. There have been a number of accidents This particular listener claims that they're having difficulty getting any satisfaction from the City of St. John's in bringing forward traffic calming measures like speed bumps, for instance. And now they're turning to the RNC to see if more patrols can be put in place in that particular area. And anybody who's ever traveled down through Kitty Vitty Village with that extremely narrow road with no opportunity to widen that road because the houses are right up against the curb. And with all of the development that's happened around there, so traffic, of course, is much greater and concentrated. The question remains, whose responsibility is it to ensure that that area is a safe place to live and work and travel through? I'd like to hear what you have to say about that. By all means, pick up the phone and give us a call. And we've been trying to get a hold, by the way, of that particular listener to see what they have to say. We're going to go now to the beautiful town of Heart's Content to speak with Tolson Rendell. Hello, Tolson.
Good day, ma'am. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Linda, it's nice to hear your voice back on the air. I was certainly touched yesterday when I heard you on talking to an elderly lady from the Arnold's Cove area.
Yeah.
Barbara Barrett. Mrs. Barbara Barrett?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Yeah. Well, she, several years back, I'm going to go back to 1993, I think, that she came to Heart's Content because she had relatives here, and it's all got to do with the transatlantic cable. I'm not exactly sure if I say this correct, or she'll correct me if I'm wrong, for sure. I think it was her great-great-uncle came here to work in the cable station, and his name was Samuel Scott Bailey.
Okay.
And he was from O'Dearn, Placentia Bay. And she, in the old homestead in O'Dearn, she found a treasure trove of documentation of different things to do with the transatlantic cable, especially letters that her great-great-uncle would have sent to his parents in O'Dearn. And, it was a treasure trove without a doubt. And she came here or was a part of the movie that they have done up to the cable station now. She's involved in the movie.
Oh, great. And that documentation that she came across, was that donated to the town?
No, I think it was donated to the government, and I think it's at the rooms. I'm not sure.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. No, well, this is what I'm going to say to you. We're talking about telecommunications and how fast everything has improved, and sometimes you wonder how slow it is, but how fast it is. I think when her great-great-uncle, if I'm standing to be corrected on that, the exact, if it's a great-great-uncle or great-uncle. But anyhow, when he worked here, he would send a letter from his parents from here to O'Dearn, from Heart's Content to O'Dearn, and in return to get the letter back and forth, to take about 3 months.
Wow.
That was in the 1860s.
Yeah, it's
he was, if I'm not correctly mistaken, I think she told me, because I was up to see her a couple of years ago into her apartment in the Arnold's Cove area, myself and another lady. And I think she ended up telling me that he was here when the Great Eastern landed the cable.
Amazing.
He also lived here in one of the big townhouses, in which it's a historic site here now, which is owned by the Whalens now. They have the bed and breakfast here in the town of Heart's Content, the manager's house, and the other buildings. He would have been one of them. And actually, me and her went to the cemetery and found where they were buried.
Amazing.
Amazing stuff. Amazing history.
Yeah.
And what I want to let you know, Linda, is this year it's unbelievable, but 2016 was the 150th anniversary of the landing of the first successful transatlantic cable from Valencia, Ireland to Heart's Content. And now this year, coming up, 26, it's going to be at the 160th, and it'll be 10 years for the town taking over the lighthouse out on the point.
Yeah, a great history there, and so vital to, everything that we enjoy in North America today. There's the Cabot Tower, of course, with the Marconi station there, and then there's Heart's Content, and it's just amazing to think. I mean, you and I wouldn't be talking today if it wasn't for those achievements.
Well, that's exactly right. It's funny, how things work, and we had. I don't know if you've ever heard of a guy. He's a physicist, an engineer, professor. You name whatever he is everything. A guy by the name of Donald DeCogan. And he was here to the cable station a couple of years ago, and we had a discussion. Because I worked here years ago, and I know every bit of the building inside out, basically, to a point. And anyhow, I went up to have a chat with him. I took him out for supper. And he told me, I asked him, I said, Donald, where is there anywhere like there is equipment like it's in the Heart's Content cable station? He said, Tolson, I don't know for anywhere in the world, only probably the Smithsonian.
And it's right here in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Yes. Oh, no, I was blown away with it. I mean, it's since I've been involved and worked up there and been on the town council here, I've been to Ireland a couple of times and seen what Ireland got over there. Don't get me wrong, Ireland got a lot, but Heart's Content got a lot more than Ireland got, and one wouldn't be here without the other. So if we're in a run for UNESCO now, and whatever Ireland need, as far as I'm concerned, I told Premier the White Ball years ago, and the Minister of Tourism and the member at the time, Steve Crocker, it should be whoever wants what should have it, vice versa. Because one wouldn't be here without the other to make it work.
So where does that process stand now? You're seeking UNESCO World Heritage status. Where's that process lie?
Well, it's still on everything is in the, I'll call it kind of in the slow lane, but in the fast lane in a sense. And we may have a delegation, who knows, show up here this summer from Ireland. I'm hoping there will be. I'm not sure. But if it do, it'll be a great thing, because I was over there with a delegation in 2024 and was excellent what we done and what we've seen and what we accomplished over there. So I first thought, Linda, to be honest, when this started, there wouldn't be much to it. But I'll tell you what, there's a lot more to it than meets the eye.
So this would be a joint type thing between Heart's Content and
Canada and Ireland. Yes.
Okay, yeah. Amazing. And what would that mean for the town?
As Penny said, well, to be honest with you, this is my honest opinion. And I'm straightforward with everybody and a straight shooter. If it's going to bring prosperity to the town, great. But if it's going to be like whelm everything overboard and drive everything skyrocketing, I wouldn't be in favor, because I don't want to see some of the seniors here in this community, and I'm 70 years old myself. I don't want to see people drove out of their houses and that because of UNESCO. But I'd like to see everything, within reason, that everyone can make everything work and not go skyrocketing and driving everything out of whack.
I hear you, because there is there are consequences to success, aren't there?
Well, it's just like they're talking about the tourism tax right now. I'm on council here 25 years. And as for me, a tourism tax is good, bad, and indifferent. And you'll say, Towson, how is that? One thing, people are paying enough taxes right now. We're taxed to death. We don't need no more taxes, as far as I'm concerned. So I think it could hurt the community more than it do good. That's just my opinion.
Tolson Rendell, we appreciate your call this morning. Thank you very much.
And I'd like to reach out to Mrs. Barrett and say a special thanks for being on the open line yesterday. And you've done a wonderful job as always. Take care and stay safe.
All right, thank you.
All the best.
Same to you. Bye-bye. We're going to take a short break, and we hope to hear from you in the last few minutes of the show. And we are going now to Labrador West to speak with Noreen Kareen with the Twin Cities 50-Plus Seniors Club. Hello, Noreen.
Good morning, Linda.
How are you? Good.
I'm
How are
grand.
you?
I think I might have only spoken to you once before. I've spoken to Patty many times. So welcome back, at least for now, whatever that's going to look like.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say that not the last caller, but the caller second to that, I think he was asking about the Minister for Seniors. It's Craig Purdy.
Oh, yes, of course it is. Yes.
Yeah, right, yeah. Anyway, that wasn't why I called. So I listened all morning, as I do every morning, and I always consider myself to definitely be a person involved with seniors and have my finger on the pulse. I chair our group here of, I think we have 265 members in our club. and I sit on the Newfoundland and Labrador 50 Plus Federation as second vice, so very entwined in hearing what's going on with seniors. But I listened this morning. First off, I got a comment on the Seniors Advocate and another person who I've worked very closely with in my different volunteer positions. And I have to say that the legislative move is going to be, hopefully, a marvellous move, a very needed move. But as I hear people chatting back and forth and calling in about the issues, you know, a personal care home, long-term care home, I often sit and think, does anybody outside of Labrador West ever realize that the presence of either of these is a zero existence here in Labrador West?
Is that right? Still that issue
That's
there?
Right. That is absolutely right. We have, you know, a large population of seniors. I have many seniors who I volunteer among are living in 2-3-story homes, have to bring beds down to their kitchen area because of mobility issues, and there is a zero type of seniors living. So to me, somebody should sit back and think, well, what happens to a senior when they become, that they can't stay age in the right place? What happens to them from Labrador West?
Good questions all. And of course, like I've often said, I don't need to tell you, but I mean, Labrador West has often been overlooked in these areas because it tended to be a transitional type of community, but that's not the case anymore. People are staying.
Absolutely not. We have a large population of seniors. We have first, second, and third generation. Myself, my husband has been retired for, I'm going to say, 23 years. We're still here in Labrador West. We want to stay in Labrador West. But many times, because of lack of seniors housing, you know, issues with health care, I'm not going to go into MTEP because I could use your whole program to talk about MTEP. And, you know, we're far away from those resources. I have a friend who her daughter was very, very ill here, needed to be out of here for surgery, couldn't get a flight, couldn't get the medical air ambulance, whatever reason. So they offered, they said, we'll send in a bush plane. So they sent in a bush plane, but her decision was, you can wear a pamper or you can have a catheter put in, because you're only going on a bush plane. Now, to me, that is totally embarrassing.
Oh, dear. It is.
Yeah, exactly. And we have people up in our hospital, like I visited only the other day. We have 2 or 3 people up there who are waiting for cardiology. One of them was on like day 21. So, you know, to talk about what's happening down in our emergency department, again, you only got to go visit upstairs and see the lengthy wait for getting the medical service that they need.
Yeah, and in terms of long-term care, are there any opportunities to build something in the area? I mean, we know how tight housing is.
Linda, my dear, if you only knew how much time and hours has been put in for building from a cottage to seniors living to a seniors personal care, like, you know, it just goes around and round in every cycle. When government change, you just figure you're getting somewhere, then there's another change, and you're back to square one, back over and over again. Like, it is just totally ridiculous.
And you're not getting any satisfaction? Have you spoken with the seniors minister?
Oh my God, this senior minister, we do have a date, I believe, to meet with him. But other senior ministers, they know me all to pieces, trust me. And along with our MHA, I have to say I am optimistic, and I try to stay optimistic that, you know, with this new government, they certainly recognize the need. They've all been in here. We've met with them all. They know the situation. I'm hopeful. We do have application in for the Build Canada Homes. So, again, we're hoping. But prior to that, we had 1, 2, 3 proposals that went in, and the 3 of them get turned down. And you know why we get turned down every time?
Why?
Because it's too expensive.
Wow.
So what's going to change? I have no idea.
Well, what is going to change? Exactly. Labrador City is, many people have called it the economic engine of this entire province.
Absolutely. You would never say, honestly, if you were a senior living here, and like I said, I spend a lot of time among my seniors, you would never say that it's the economic engine. People say to me, like, oh my goodness, like, what's happening? We're getting forgotten.
So what is the solution then? If a senior's home is too costly to put there, what is the solution?
Absolutely. And again, I'm all about, aging in the right place. Absolutely. I'm all for it. But the other piece of that is you cannot buy a home care worker to go into anybody's home here. So they don't have that piece either. So if you're not fortunate enough to have some family or some good friends here, and you have parents or grandparents who are ill or have mobility issues, you're in trouble, big trouble.
It's almost forcing you to pick everything up, sell everything off, and leave.
Absolutely, Linda. Exactly my point, and that's what's happening. I have worked over the last few years with so many couples who ended up having to leave, not because they wanted to leave. Leave their support, leave their family, leave everything they have, sell their home, pick it up, and go somewhere. And I have followed up with many of those, and I can tell you that the stories are very, very sad, because the first thing they'll say, I'm not where I want to be, and I'm only here because I have to be.
Very good. Noreen, it's a sad situation and a real conundrum in that area, and so glad for people like you that are doing the advocacy work and keeping that fight up.
Well, we have to keep it in the forefront. We have to keep doing it while we're able. But, in the meantime, myself and other people that work on this with me, they're getting older and they're getting worn out. They're getting tired. Like, you can only bark up the same tree so often.
No, I hear your frustration there. Noreen, thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda, and you're doing wonderful work.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Okay, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And we're getting word at through our control room here that there may be a notification gone out to parents of Gonzaga due to a fire at the school. And again, this is completely unconfirmed. So we're trying to get some information on that. But if anybody happens to know the situation, let us know and we'll pass that on to our listeners. A parent had called Dave off the air to say that they were called to head up to the school to pick up their student because of a fire at the school. They've had to get kids out, I guess. But we don't know if that's true, and we don't know what the extent of it is. And as you know, oftentimes in these kinds of school settings, the situation might not be that. Oh, hang on now, Sarah Strickland. Oh, we have one of our reporters is en route to Gonzaga as we speak to find out what the situation is there. So our newsroom is getting similar types of calls. We don't know if there's anything, like I say, whether or not it's serious or whether it's something like a smell of smoke and they just have to evacuate to investigate. So we're trying to get more information on that as we speak. And VOCM Sarah Strickland, who is taking over now on the other side of the glass in a very authoritative way, I should say, is going to be passing on the latest information on that. And once again, Bank of Canada has reached its held its benchmark interest rate at 2.25% as the economy performs below expectations, but with the war in the Middle East threatening higher inflation, I guess they're leaving the door open to a possible adjustment the next time around. So as goes inflation, goes the rest of our lives, I suppose. And we've talked a lot about that over the last little while as well, and for everything from gas prices to grocery prices and everything in between. And the situation, the global political situation that's unfolding before our very eyes is certainly not helping matters. That is for certain. That's it for us for today. Thanks, everyone, for your contributions. Looking forward to our conversations again now tomorrow on VOCM Open Line. We'll be back then.